Alright lads, guess who's back? Back again. Shady's back. Tell a friend. So where have I been? I've been in the fucking boxing gym. So I've been training for a fight. I got a fight on the 21st of April. So been just boxing, been training for that. It's been a good workout. It's been a lot different than fucking lifting weights and all that shit. It's been different sparring, doing all that crap. You know, I'm 37 now, so training for a fight, even though it's fucking, it's not really that serious, it still takes it out of you. So I started at it. I said that I'd fight at 85, and I was fucking 93.9 or some shit. So I nearly had to lose nearly 10 kilos. Now I'm down to about 89, and I got about a month left. The last kilo I'll lose in the sauna. So I got about 4 weeks to drop probably 4 kilos. But I'd say 4 weeks to drop 3 kilos. Drop the last one in the sauna, so yeah, I can do it. I'll get it done. And it's been a good experience. I look forward to it, once you sort of have everything and once you have the sort of past that I've had, it's harder to fucking find anything that's difficult. It's harder to find anything where I sit there and think like, this is challenging now. With this, it's difficult too. When you got money, you can insulate yourself from pretty much every problem. But my money can't get in the ring and fight for me. No matter how much money I have, I can still go to get battered by some guy who works in a warehouse on $10 an hour. So it's a lot harder to fucking get inspiring, and it's a lot harder to fight and do things like that the more you have. So when people have a lot and they still do that sort of training, I have respect for them because it's just harder. It's a lot harder to do it, but that's what makes it enjoyable for me. I like to do things that are difficult. I like to do something like this where I think like, there's probably going to be 50 guys that don't know what to fight. And I hope that I have a good performance, but I'm starting to get, just a little bit of the creep, sort of anxiety creeping in. And I love that feeling. It's nice to feel things. It's hard to feel things when you have fucking everything that you want. Nothing really surprises you anymore. You have the mind that I've got and you have the experiences that I've had. It's very difficult to be surprised by things. It's difficult to be caught off guard. It's hard to not know what's going to come or what's going to happen. But with this, it's some sort of unknown, so I find it very fucking interesting. But I look forward to it, I'll fucking come back, win, lose, or draw, and I'll let you guys know how it all went down. And yeah, I look forward to it. I'll probably fight at 85. And yeah, I look forward to it. We'll get it done. I think that I'll get the win, but either way, I think I'm looking forward to it. So I put a thing up on Instagram to do a Ask Me Anything, because I saw also in the comments some guy wrote a few weeks ago waiting for my next video. So I check them from time to time. I don't really check a lot of the comments. I don't jump in and get into these fucking like debates or fucking garbage with people that are posting shit. If some anon jumps on and says a bunch of crap, that doesn't really have any effect on me. You won't see me in the comments getting a red face, screaming at people over text. That's crap. But yeah, so I'm here in Dubai now. It's fucking 1 a.m. and I said that I'd do this, so I'm jumping on. It's one of the advantages of saying like crazy shit. Like, you jump on and you say, oh, I'll do an AMA tonight. And then it's fucking 1 a.m. So now I have to get it done. Like I have to have it available for the morning because I said that I would fucking do it. But sometimes that's a way that you can push yourself to do extra shit. I've had a big day, trained today, did all the shit. But I said I would do it, so here I am. So when you say shit, and you say shit to friends and things like that, you have to do it. This boxing as well. I've had a bunch of fucking little crappy injuries along the way, but I said it to 50 or 100 of my friends that I would fight. So I'll fight. That's the game. It's better to lose and keep your dignity in your word than it is to fucking people think that your word doesn't mean shit. As a man, your word's really all you have. Your word kind of has to be your bond. If you say you're going to do shit, you kind of have to fucking do it. Or you have to fucking not do it if your leg's broken or something very serious that is easy to see. You can't just have a sore neck or a sore back and be like, no, I'm just going to pull out. Because now everyone thinks that you're a fucking pussy and that you don't stand for shit. That all it takes to knock you off kilter is something fucking minor. So you have to do shit that you say you're going to do. That's the game. And every time you do shit that, you say you do it, builds your substance, but also like, your inner strength and your inner dialogue. It builds it further along. The more you tell yourself things and then you actually do it, that's starting to build your character now. Like that's building your trust with yourself. A lot of the junkies and people who have addictions and some of you guys who fucking have no self-awareness, it's because your inner dialogue is trash. You say a bunch of stuff to yourself and then you don't do it. Junkies will say shit like, oh, I'll never do drugs again, all this crap. And then they just consistently break their word to themselves to a point where they don't even trust themselves anymore. The hardest thing with an addict is often when they finish their addiction and they can finally sort of come clean, it's like they've completely lost the connection to themselves. The hardest thing for them is to gain their own trust back in the first place. It's like an addiction to anything. It's someone who's been a fat fuck or addicted to food, gambling, porn, whatever. They have so many times where they lie to themselves and they promise themselves that they'll never do it again. And they first have to build that bridge and that bond back with themselves. And then they can work on sort of building the trust back of other people that they've hurt as well. That's the game. You have dialogue with yourself has to be very truthful. You can bullshit to the world to a degree, but if you bullshit to yourself, you're not going to get ahead. You're going to be completely fucked up. You always have to keep an honest dialogue and accountability. Some people, it might even be writing the journal. I think journaling is pretty fucking gay. It's pretty pointless. But for some people, it could be a good step to building that trust in themselves. Building that into dialogue. They write down a bunch of shit and then they actually do it and they can go back every night and tick it off. I said I would do this and I did it. It's for some people, that's the first step to getting some substance. Like that's the first step. They're actually building a bond with themselves. Like they're saying that they'll go to the gym at a certain time. They're saying that they won't eat any more fucking sugar after 6 o'clock. They're saying that they'll lose this weight that they want to lose. They're saying that they might go and talk to 2 girls today. And then they go back at night and they actually tick off that they did it. Now you're talking, the conscious body and brain is talking to the subconscious. And the subconscious goes, all right, this guy's actually fucking something to do shit. Like he's doing some stuff now. I can start to let go a little bit. But of course, this is again leading into a dealing in something that's at an expert level. This is the sort of thing that's getting quite deep. And some people would say that that's woo-woo, but it's so obviously not. There's really 2 consciousnesses that fucking everyone must know. You've got your conscious now where you're walking around and you're perfectly alert and everything's fucking normal. And then you've got your subconscious, which is the thing that happens when you're asleep. And it sort of has its own frame of who you are. So you have your frame on the outside that you sort of give to the world and things like that. But your subconscious is the one that knows like who you fucking really are. Like it's the no bullshit one. It's the one that you're not aware of. Like it's the one that pretty much looks out for you and resets everything back to how it is when you go to sleep. It's the one that you have to win over. If you want to fucking like become something, because it's the boss essentially. This like frame that I'm putting out now, it's only who I am that got to be a massive success because it's congruent with my other frame. I started living a life that was congruent. I started living a life that was fucking like, I would say that I would do shit. If I wrote down 10 things, I would do all 10 and tick them off at night and go to sleep. And then your subconscious thinks, all right, I can start to let go. This guy's like this person now. And that's what actually like reinforces the fucking like beliefs and the belief system that you can start to live by. Then you can start to sort of like fucking change things. Some of you, it would be the best thing that you ever did if you just wrote down a list of things to do, and they can start small and you actually fucking do them. That's a massive thing. It could be a list like, I'm not going to play video games, or I'm only going to play video games for an hour a day or an hour a night or something. I'm going to wean them down. And then you actually do it. And you sit there and tick the list off and you think like, now you're starting to get like some trust in yourself. Your word to yourself actually means something. If your word doesn't mean shit to yourself, it's going to come across like to other people as well. That you don't really trust yourself. You don't really have any fucking substance. You don't have a foundation. I drill on the foundation so much, and I know that guys are probably sick of hearing it. But the foundation is the foundational fitness. You have to look after your body. You have to have, doesn't mean that you have to be built like Hercules. It doesn't mean that you have to be benching fucking 3 plates. It can mean that you just bench your own body weight. You can do your fucking 30 or 40 push-ups with no rest. Proper push-ups, not these like air pumps like this, but you go all the way down and up. And you can do your 30, 40 push-ups. You can get on the treadmill. Maybe you can run 20 minutes on, 11 kilometers an hour with slight incline. If you can run your 3 or 4 miles, then you're a man to me. I've said it before. You squat at least like probably 1.2 times your body weight. Squatting it to the ground, don't consider, you don't have to go all the way to touch your ass on the ground. You're just doing squats. But to me, now you're building yourself into a man with the foundational fitness. Then you can push it harder. Then you can start going to a boxing gym. Maybe you start sparring. Maybe you only train in a boxing gym like 2 or 3 times a week. And then as you get better, maybe you only train there like once a week. I think that life in general with fitness, it's about being fitter and being able to kick the ass of 90% of the population. If you're fitter than 9 out of 10 people, if you've got a better body than 9 out of 10 people that walk around, which isn't hard if you live in the West. I mean, most of the people are fucking pigs in that place. That place is some of the ugliest people on the planet. So I don't think it's really that hard to stand out over there. Although the issue with the West, specifically the States and Australia, they have like a inflation on the women. Actually, I would say that it's inflationary of fat people, but it's actually deflationary of the women that are in shape. Women over there, if you're just not fat, you're now in the 1/3, you're now special. Just to not be a whale, you're in the top 33%. You can have a busted face, you can not even be in the gym, you can just not be fat, just be an average body. And now you're in the top 33%. So it's quite deflationary. The fatties have fucking just got them thinking that they're the absolute fucking top, just if they're just not obese. So the deflation there makes it pretty difficult to find good women, because the ones who just aren't fat think that they're fucking split the atom. They're so special. That's crazy. Then you come somewhere like Poland or Kiev, fucking Warsaw, Kiev, places like that. And most people, 95% of the women aren't fat. The 5% of fatties are undateable, yes, but there's just really not many of them. So it's very competitive. This is really how the market should be. And as such, the attitudes and things like that, they're just so much more pleasant. I think that it's going to become a real thing into the future, where a lot of guys aren't going to want to settle for these pigs, in their home cities. I think passport bros, they call it. To a degree, the guys who do it, a lot of them are fucking nerds though. They're customers with women in the States or things like that. They're essentially just tricks. And then they just be a trick to a girl who wants less money. If you go to Thailand and things like that, it's easy to, they're still a trick. But instead of the girl expecting fucking to hang out at Nobu or somewhere expensive, she's just happy with a fucking bag of chips, shit like that, but they're still essentially customers. It's still the same. The barrier of entry is just less. They're a customer, but they're just paying less money. But over time, as more and more simps go out there and they get used to it's guys will have to spend more money because a lot more tricks will go there. That will become not as bad, but still, again, poison, because a lot of guys that do that sort of stuff only lead with their wallet. All they have is money. So then again, a lot of people have money. If money's all you have, that's what's happened in the West. Guys who only have money start fighting each other and trying to offer girls more, and it's an issue. And that will eventually happen in these other places too. It won't happen the same as what it's happened now, but in the West, in say Thailand, it'll take a long time to mop up all those people, but it will create, it poisons that sort of an environment. Cash itself, money itself poisons people like that, because they're not really consumers. But once they get exposed to that sort of idea, see, sometimes in Dubai, you see girls come from Kiev or something like that. Girls will come here from, maybe not Kiev because it's such a big city, although there are still a lot of poor people there, but maybe a smaller village town. Some guy will say, oh, I like this girl, she's a village girl, I'll bring her over for a few months if we get along, things like that. And then how does she ever go back to the village? Like when she's been taking photos in Dubai, running around Dubai, she's been like seeing all this wealth, seeing all these things. She's essentially poisoned. So then if things break up or whatever, she's going to want to stay here. And how do you think like girls are going to stay here? They're going to jump into escorting, prostitution, hide behind like, you know, real estate or whatever other guys that they have, but they're actually going to be doing like escorting. So I think that, you know, being around money and things like that, it's not for everyone. You know, it's not. Part of the reason why the dating market and things like that are so fucked up now is because people who were in like small towns and sort of areas that weren't really meant to get exposed to wealth, massively exposed to it. You know, that instead of the old days where a guy could be in a small town and the girl doesn't really know what's happening, like outside in the big city, you know, she would never see what girls are doing in Dubai or Ibiza or like fucking Monaco and all this shit. Like Mykonos, you know, she wouldn't really know that there's bottle girls and that running around that are partying and making thousands of dollars. She wouldn't have known that existed. But at the same time, it looks a lot better than it is. You know, it looks great. It looks like a party all the time. They look like they're making all this money and things like that. But they're essentially selling their youth. And they're selling their youth and beauty because they only get a finite amount of time to find someone who's worth shit. And a guy who's worth shit doesn't want the busted up bottle girl that was fucking living in Mykonos for 2 years, living in Mykonos for a year, living in Dubai for 2 years. No one fantasizes about wifing that girl up. Okay, so she's essentially fucking herself up for handbags and fucking garbage. And then when she gets to 30 or in her early 30s, not really going to be a prize for anyone. No one wants the fucking smashed out bottle girl. You know, the only guys who are going to want that girl are guys who pretty much just lie to her to fuck it. Or maybe like some low value simps. But guys who are worth shit don't really like want the smashed out 30-year-old. Like who the fuck would? You know, there's new women coming out all the time that are 21. Why would I want to settle for one that's been smashed out, like used and abused? Like I would still fuck her maybe if she was like a fucking stunner. But why would I like want anything long term with it? You know, it's a waste of time. So let's jump into this Instagram Ask Me Anything. I put a question thing up. Got about 60 or 80 questions. Some of them are fucking inappropriate. It's almost like they're written by a homo. Had about 3 dudes asking me about my dick. It's fucking incredibly gay. The worst thing is that they're fucking guys. Like, you know, it's very fucking disturbing, that shit. There's a lot of weirdos around. There's a lot of weirdos around that talk shit online, but like ask dumb questions online, but just would never ask shit like that in person. So it's fucking creepy. Online creates like this barrier between people, but they forget that you're still a real person. You know, and it's disturbing. Like there's an etiquette to socializing. You can't just fucking ask dumb questions. Weird fucking like degenerate questions. An issue is that so many guys just watch too much porn. Like that everything's just hypersexualized. Even someone asks like an Ask Me Anything about fucking like business, finance, money, women, and people just ask disturbing questions. You know, it's the whole like existence isn't just about sex. Like this, the world doesn't exist to just be like some fucking like theme park of pleasure. You know, it's fucking dumb. It's just because people are watching too much porn again. But let's jump into it. I'll start with a question about Warsaw, because I think it's a great place. Why choose Warsaw? Why did I choose there as a place to live? The reason why I choose Warsaw as a place to live is I was in Dubai. I'd actually just been in Mexico. I was in Mexico for about a month, Guadalajara. And then I went to Dubai and I saw the guys there, some of the guys. And Jewel was the one who told me actually. He said, you should go to Kiev or Warsaw. He said, I know what you like. He said, I know how you are. He said, I think that you really like it there. He said, I think that it's a great place. He'd been there many times. And then Kiev started having issues with the war. The war hadn't broken out yet, but there was a lot of fucking like talk of instability in that area. So, and he's a master in those sort of fields. So if he says that it's a bit unstable, I knew that it wasn't a place for me to go to. But I went to Warsaw and it was a fucking great decision. I didn't want to go back to Australia. I never wanted to go back to Australia since the lockdowns. You know, a lot of the lockdowns have fucking destroyed that place. Set it back 20 years, as I've discussed before. It's not, although I do know guys who've had small businesses there that have been fucking bankrupted from the lockdowns, like they're fucked now. But it's not just from a financial standpoint. It's not just a financial standpoint where you can't really buy in the property market there. It's extremely difficult if you're a normal person. It's not just that as a business trying to make money there, it's very difficult. I was paying 43% tax plus 10% GST, so over 50% of my money was going on tax when I lived there. I paid over $1 million taxes in 3 years there. So it's not just that it's very difficult to get ahead, like financially. It's difficult to get ahead if you're running a business. The taxes there are astronomical, and you get very little for your tax money. You have an issue when you have to go to like the medical services there, and they're fucking terrible. The amount of times that I'd gone to like a GP or something like that, the general practitioner, and it's some fucking pretty much retard who's just sitting there on Google, some fucking like, for lack of a better word, like foreign, like fob, who's just fucking flown in on the next boat, on the last boat, shouldn't even be fucking like practicing anything, knows nothing, has some really questionable like medical degree that it probably isn't even real, that is fucking faked one. And they're sitting on Google trying to diagnose me with this shit. And it's fucking garbage. And I'm paying, like I paid $1 million over 3 years for that sort of treatment. You know, it's garbage. It's trash. So a lot of the shit that you get is the bare minimum. And I'd still have like potholes in the road. I'd be driving my Porsche around and the roads were still crap. And this was around Brisbane. So I started to realize like what's my money going towards? A lot of these fucking like social programs and crap that I didn't even agree with. Like I wasn't even being asked the own crap that they're going to be pushing to my own kid in that area. It's garbage. So I didn't agree with a lot of it, so I left. You know, it's one thing to sit around and bitch about a country. It's another thing to sort of sit there and, you know, get into this, oh, I want to save the West and all this crap. But if you really like have issues with it, you can just leave. Like there's no reason to stay there and fucking complain. So I got out of there. You know, to me, it's a shithole. It's not a shithole that it's not a beautiful country. It's not a shithole that there's not like, you know, good people there and things like that. It's the government that's turning it into a fucking like cesspool. The government's pushing everyone to be massively slave-minded. I've discussed this many times, what they do over there. It's very hard to be manly. It's very like, you know, against men. The hardest thing is it's men enforcing on other men over there. A lot of the Suis are kind of pushing their own weak ideas and like, you know, virtue signaling crap. And it's sort of like reprogramming a lot of the actual men there. You have see one footballer will fucking like fight someone in the pub and then gets dragged on the front page forever. Like any sort of masculine behavior, you know, footballers fight, like men fight. A fight is not the fucking like the end of the world. See, a lot of people are trained now that a fight is like some shit that's on in America where it's fucking like, you know, do or die. It's to the death, people pulling guns and knives and all this shit out. A fight used to be just a fist fight, and fist fights in Australia and things like that, they're incredibly common. But now, a lot of that sort of aggression and things like that, it's just painted as something that's just completely toxic. And it's not. You know, it's not toxic that footballers fight. It's not toxic that footballers are like, you know, boisterous and do shit. Maybe they fuck girls and do stuff like that's normal. You know, but then a footballer will do something like that and just get dragged for fucking like months and probably even kicked out of the team that they're in. It's very fucking ridiculous. Any sort of like manly behavior, or it's just always reprogrammed. Like it's reframed that manliness is to be like toxically masculine. You know, it's not manly to even look after your own family. You know, a lot of the discipline over there is done by the police. You know, a lot of the discipline isn't done by the man, like the father, because a lot of fathers don't really know how to discipline. They don't really have any boundaries. They don't really know how to, like, you know, set the frame for their own sons that they have. The son just grows up confused with no discipline. The teachers can't really discipline either over there because the kids and that just have too many rights. They're out of control. It's a country where, like, if you were to smack your own kid, I don't even know if that's legal. Like, it might actually be illegal to do that sort of crap. You know, I've heard of people getting in trouble for, like, yelling at their own kids. Like, they can get investigated by child protection services. You know, it's very fucking extreme. You know, if someone wants to, like, smack their kid on the ass or, like, give their kid a slap or something, it's their kid. Like, they should be perfectly allowed to do that. You know, it's their decision to be in charge of the discipline. I don't agree with hitting kids as a rule. I mean, look at me, why the fuck would I need to? But I do agree with discipline to a massive degree. I think that discipline is a lot of what's missing in the world. People think discipline is to go to court when they're already in trouble and get in trouble further. To discipline a person is to put more restrictions on them when they don't even have any fucking, like, foundational rules or, like, water in their life, and then they just get put on parole or, like, you know, probation or all this other crap. They learn nothing, but instead they just get more restrictions. And then eventually, if they fuck up, they go to prison. And again, they learn nothing because no courses or anything. You're just sitting in fucking a unit with 80 guys that don't fucking know anything either. And then eventually there's just drugs everywhere and people get out all fucked up. And then they, like, have kids, because people often have kids that shouldn't have them. The people who have less seem to have the most kids. And then the kids just even more fucked up. And then the discipline and that, it's just a lazy way to pass it on to the police and things like that to do. You don't want the police disciplining your own kids, because as soon as the police have any contact with them, they're going to fuck their whole life up. Probation and all that sort of shit, like going to court, it's a slippery slope. You want to keep your kids out of court. You want to keep your kids out of any contact with the police. Because the thing with the police is, once they've seen you once, like, they start essentially looking out for you. You know, if they see your kid one time, they're going to look out for him. Like, to see, because they've identified him now, like, they know what he looks like. So they're going to monitor him more. Even if it's just, like, looking at him, like, they're monitoring your community. They're like the local police, so now they're going to see him more. And then eventually, if he fucks up again, it's going to be easier to identify. And then now he's on the bigger list of the shit. You know, more police know he exists, and that's fucking bad. Like, other people are going to, it's a fucking self-fulfilling prophecy. Once they have that first police interaction, it can easily snowball from there. It can become part of their identity, specifically if they're still young. Other people can be like, oh, you're in trouble, you're always in trouble. And then they start to think, like, actually I am. And then they start growing into those shoes. It's fucking dumb to have your kids to have really any interaction with the police. It would be up there in stupidity for the fucking retards that I used to see that would bring their kids to prison. Like, how selfish do you have to be to have your kids come just visit you in jail? You know, they're taking in all that bad energy and shit, and what do you think that they're gonna fucking, like, do? I would be doing, if I did life there, I still wouldn't have my kids come and see me, like my kid come and see me. Why the fuck would I? They're taking in all that bad energy, and they're also seeing, like, a lot of negativity, but they're seeing other inmates. Do you think that that's good for kids? You know, like, how selfish could you be? You can't just do the time away from them. You have to drag them into the shit pile with you. Like, that's fucking stupid. So yes, it's a massive part of why Australia sucks and why Australia is kind of doomed to be a shithole to have kids, because the men are soys. The men aren't leading the household. A lot of women are leading the household, and again, the discipline's not really done by any specific man. I'm not saying all, because I know some guys have, like, some fucking go about them and they actually give a shit about their kids and fucking, like, make sure that they're not raising ferals. They're disciplining them and keeping them in check and, like, teaching them shit. A lot of Australia thinks that the teaching is done by the school. Like, they're relying on some public school, some fucking, like, teacher who doesn't fucking know anything. If he knew shit, he wouldn't be a teacher. Like, what's he teaching? Fucking some tard teaching business. But if he knew about business, he would run a fucking business. Like, it's really not that. It's kind of common sense. It's not that difficult. And then the discipline done by the police, the court system, discipline done in the school. You know, some of the discipline by the school can just be like, they call the police and things like that. The discipline can be like, you know, the kid gets in trouble and essentially gets into the system from school. You know, they get into detention and things like that, and they start to think like, oh, I'm a bad kid. And then they grow into those shoes and think, all right, well, I'll just be bad now. Everyone thinks I'm bad, so that's just how I am. So it's cool to be like that, and then blow their whole life up even before they get to be like 18. They've got a massive amount of juvenile crime in Australia. A lot of the juvie crime, like people stealing cars and like hurting people and doing a bunch of crap, absolute garbage crime. You know, and then they grow up to be adults doing the same bullshit. They have a real soft stance on juvie crime too. Like the kids, yeah, they fuck up and put them on a lot of like court orders and things like that and essentially destroy their life, yes, for the future. But they don't lock these kids up for that long. You know, they'll lock them up for like 6 months or 12 months for like major crimes, like, you know, stabbings and shit like that. They get a really down sentence compared to what an adult would get. Yes, they fuck their whole life up because they're essentially getting institutionalized at that age. But like, there's not really much of a deterrent. You know, and again, that's, man is not really doing shit in his house, and he's letting the courts and the fucking like police service and things like that monitor his kids and fuck them up. A lot of single mums there, and they can't control boys. Like there's single mums that have 2 boys or something and they can't control them in the house. So the kid just grows up a fucking complete feral and just does whatever he wants. You see a lot of like, you know, very interruptive people there. You know, a lot of the kids would get to jail or something like that when I was there, and people would just knock them out because they've never fucking like, it's obvious this kid just never learned respect. This kid's never like been around groups of men. So he's straight away having massive amounts of social issues as soon as he gets in the unit. The issue with the jails where I was, Woodford, apparently now, I said it in the last message, the protection jail was almost as big as the normal jail. And now I have friends in there that say that the protection jail is bigger than the normal jail now. So that means the dog section, or the section of people that are fucking pussies, is bigger than the normal jail now. And that's because people just have never learned how to be around men. They've never learned how to fucking socialize or get on with guys. And yes, there are a lot of snitches as well, but not everyone in there's a snitch. Some of them are just scared. Some of them are just weak. Some of them are fucking like touching kids and shit. But again, it's just people never really learned how to be around men and how to be around society and how to fucking like, you know, contribute and how to be a man worth anything. You know, they never really learned that shit. And that shit's only going to get worse in a country like Australia. The prisons and that are only just going to get worse. When I was at Woodford, it was already 2 to a cell. Soon it'll be fucking 3 to a cell. There'll be someone like sleeping on the toilet while there's fucking someone on the bunk and another on the floor. It's a fucking mess there. The shit that happens in those fucking units is fucking disgusting. Imagine you're doubled up to a cell, some fucking like 18-year-old kid stuck in there with some guy who's been in jail for like 20 years of his life. And then there's no cameras in there. No cameras in the cell. And the cunt's locked in the cell with him for like, 10 hours a day or something. Locked in. No one's really... They have guards come around, but not really. You know, the guy's locked in with the dude. The lights are off at night. You think people rape, and then they'll be like, oh, rapes don't happen. That's complete bullshit. That shit happens fucking all the time. That's why I drum, guys, and I've drummed it a zillion times for a lot of you. A lot of you don't understand how to have boundaries. You know, boundaries is the biggest thing that's missing in modern men. I've said it before. Self-awareness is up there, but self-awareness is necessary to develop your own boundaries. You have to know what your limits are and what things that you like, what you don't like, who you want to be, how people can treat you, how you treat other people. You can't instill boundaries on yourself if you fucking disrespect the boundaries of other people all the time either. You have to understand socializing, also how your actions impact other people. Because when you're an adult online talking a bunch of garbage, yes, the consequences are not really fucking dire. You know, no one knows who you are. No one really checks your shit or gives a fuck too much. But you can't act like that everywhere. You know, not everything's a prison. Yes, not everyone's going to beat the fuck out of you if you say the wrong thing or be disrespectful. But a lot of you guys will never be powerful because you just piss off too many people. You know, you're a king in your own head. Once you turn the computer off, shut the laptop, break out of your own mind and start being around other people, you are porn at best. You know, and that's just the game. That's just the way it will be. You have to learn to give respect, specifically to guys that are above you. I've said it a million times. You have to be able to give respect too to guys in general, there's guys that are below you and things like that, and they're still increasing their value and they're still learning. You don't have to treat them like fucking garbage either. But you have to be able to make people like you. You have to be a likable person. You have to have value. You have to be teachable. You have to show to people that you want to learn. Show to people that you're not competing with them. Show to them that you respect them, that you're not going to be disrespectful. Because if you're the little smartass or the passive aggressive guy, like, why would I ever teach you to do anything? Because I think that either you're going to be a problem later down the pipe, you're going to fucking try and take my job, or fuck me around in some way. You're untrustworthy. I don't want you with me because you're not fun to be around. I don't want some passive aggressive guy with me that's doing a bunch of crap. You know what? I respect a direct person even if they're direct and they're telling me something that I didn't want to hear. Because now I know where I stand. Like, I can still do business with that guy. I can still deal with him because he tells me how shit is. Even if sometimes he's like autistically uncalibrated with how he says shit, I can still do business with him because he's direct. He's going to tell me if he has a problem with me, he's going to tell me shit. So I can get around that. I can handle that. But the passive aggressive guy, I can't deal with that because he's smiling to my face but harboring a bunch of ill will. And it comes across. It's the most toxic way to fucking live. And you don't get what you want. Being passive aggressive, you don't get what you want. You never say what you want. So you're just not going to get it. It's like a lot of you will hold doors open for a girl or do a bunch of shit, buy her shit or do shit for her and all this crap. And then you think that just means now that she has to like you. And a lot of the time the opposite is true. Because you've done a bunch of shit for her. Girls I know have said it a zillion times. Like, when a guy's just really nice to them, they think that he's defective or he wants something. Or he's trying to manipulate them to get something out of them and try and put them in a bad deal. Like, he's done all this crap and now they have to fuck him, or they have to give him her number, or they have to change Instagrams with him, or this chick now has to be so nice to him. And that's just not true. Just because you're nice to someone, a stranger, it doesn't mean that they're obligated to do shit for you. If anything, it's actually going to push them, like, now they're cautious. So a lot of the nice guy crap that you guys are taught, specifically in the West, doesn't really benefit you because it's not who you are. You can be polite and things like that, but when you go out of your way to help people or do things for people or like sacrifice parts of yourself for people, that like there should be no one to you. If I go on a date with a girl, even if we've been talking and I take her out to dinner or something like that, it's a test. Like, I'm testing if like she's worth my time. A lot of you guys are fucking like trying to sell yourself as like some product. Like, you're just fucking like trying it's so hard to impress the person. Like, you're not even vetting. Like, your vetting is just done that she has a fucking pulse. Like, that's enough. And now you're pretty much like fucking laid out the red carpet for her and it comes across. She's like, the battle's over. Like, I've already won. Now I don't want this guy. It's, if you're valuable, if you have value and like standards and things like that, they would expect that you're going to be the one that sort of like tests them, asks them questions and judges them to a degree. If I ask a chick, oh, what did you do on the weekend? And she's like, oh, I was in the club Saturday night. I'd be like, oh, okay, what time did you get home? Oh, I was there till they shut the fire. I got home at 5 a.m. I'm judging her now because I would just be like, oh, yeah, I can't take you too serious. And then they're like on the back foot. Now they have it all to prove. You would be like, I wish I was there, baby. I would have fucking taken you home and dropped you home and fucking been your Uber for the night. See, that's like desperation. That's like you're the bad deal. Like, you're the one now that is trying to get her. Whereas when I say that shit, she's like, oh, well, now I have to prove to him, like, I've taken the value knock. This guy must be someone because he's like, making me stand on my shit. You don't know that. You're just so desperate and happy that some chicks like just might touch your pee-pee. So you just fucking on the moon. You're ecstatic at that. But that's low value. It comes across. And when you start sort of being a bit like that, judgmental and not easily impressed and things like that, it's great for the future. It's part of being more disagreeable. A lot of your issues that you guys will have, you're disagreeable online. Like a lot of you will be disagreeable online and then complete doormats in person. You think that I don't know? Like I don't know a fucking zillion people, a zillion of you guys. Some of you, the biggest issue that you have is that you're not disagreeable enough. You don't say no enough. You don't fucking like judge people. You don't question them. You don't like really, you're just so happy to be there. It's just like it comes across. You come across like a doormat. And it's no challenge. Even for a friend. No one wants the fucking doormat that runs around kissing their ass because it's not real. Like I know that I'm not perfect. So when someone just fucking kisses my ass nonstop, I know that like they have some fucking issue. They're not being themselves. So that's the game. You have to be able to, even with friends. Sometimes with friends, you have to hold their feet to the fire. That's what makes a friend. You know, a friend is not someone that you just agree with every fucking second and have all the same ideas. A lot of you guys will think that, yeah, to be friends with someone means that you just have to be pretty much twins, like fucking clones that all just think exactly the same thing. And that's not real. You know, you're not seeing the whole world. You're not like understanding that you can get a lot of information from someone who disagrees with you. Disagreeing with someone doesn't mean that you hate them. It doesn't mean that you're enemies. It doesn't mean that you don't like them. It doesn't mean that, you know, you think less of them or you're better than them. If they say something and you disagree, you're like, oh, I don't agree with that. That doesn't mean that you're fucking like, you know, you're on bad terms with each other or something like that. It's not a bad thing to disagree. You know, as long as they're respectful about it, if someone's like, you know, essentially calls you an idiot and says that you're fucked, you have to do something about that. But if it's just a respectful disagreement and a discussion and things like that, and you go on and getting more information, that's great. Even amongst friends. You know, if you're doing something wrong or something that you haven't seen, like with a girl or something, maybe someone meets a girl that you've got and they tell you straight, like, you know, you went to the bathroom, I didn't like she did this, or she talked to someone, or she did that. You can't like blow up and get defensive, and it just is what it is. Like if that's true, you have to address it. Same goes with chicks. You know, you don't have to agree with each other every fucking second. You know, I think that it's a big plus if a woman's agreeable. I think women to be like feminine, submissive to a degree. I think there's always a misconception about submission. There's many types of submission. I think submission, there's sexual submission, that's one thing. You know, that's kind of what anyone can get. But a lot of dorks assume that that's like complete submission just because she's wet, that she'll fucking listen to you and do what you say. That's not the same thing as when she's not wet. Like when she's walking around, and how is she in her day-to-day? Does she listen to you? Does she do stuff for you? Is she always reverting to you? That's completely different. Like that's a lot harder to get now. But even with me, you know, the girl I have, if we're back at the apartment or back at mine or something like that, I ask her questions. You know, if we went to a yacht party, and if there's someone there or a girl there or something like that, I'll ask her opinion on that person. You know, what she thinks. I'll ask, you know, what did she like about the day, or like, you know, what were her favorite parts? Is there anything that she didn't really like, whatever? Because she has an input to add. You know, women are quite perceptive. I've said it before. They can see things like from a different perspective that you might have missed. They're essentially, a good girl is like a second set of eyes as well. You know, if you have a girl, it should be like a partnership. That's why I don't really agree with getting these complete bimbos, or like some fucking girl from the third world that doesn't even speak English and has like a fucking grade 2 education. Like what's the utility there? You know, a lot of the girls I see guys get from this third world, it's like they've essentially just bought a child. Like the kid, it's like have a girl with you, but she can't do fucking anything. Like maybe she can cook and clean, but that's literally it. Like if you're talking to her about topics or anything, she doesn't really understand fucking anything. You know, and to a degree, it's quite dangerous because you take her around these sort of like Western ideas, or even take her in the mall or something. If anything happens, she doesn't know how to do fucking anything. You know, if I get locked up or something like that and I was like, can you do this? She couldn't do jack shit. She can't do fucking anything for me. So it's, to a degree, quite dangerous. I think a woman is good. I don't think a woman needs to have like, you know, many masters or like be a fucking engineer or a doctor or something like that, unless she really wants to. But she has to be at least like reasonably intelligent. especially if you're going to have kids with this person, because I do believe that is genetic. You know, if you have someone from the fucking like third world slum with you who doesn't know fucking anything, it's going to be like you're passing that down. Like what you're going to be working, and this is the person that's going to be teaching your kids shit. They don't fucking know any you. You know, they know how to cook and clean, yes, but how difficult is that to learn? Like for a girl or anyone can learn that shit in like a month or less. You know, so a lot of people, they have a girl with them and it's like, yeah, they're walking around with a child, and it's almost embarrassing. Like if you bring it to a dinner event or something like that and the girls get together and talk while the men are doing shit, like it's going to be very obvious that she knows fucking nothing, doesn't know jack shit. A woman should be like, you know, a second set of eyes. She can assist you, she can do shit, she can help where she can. She can add value. She sees shit that needs doing and can fucking help. Got a girl that can barely even answer emails for you, it's going to be difficult. Like you're going to be teaching her fucking everything. You're going to be overlooking her, like looking over her shoulder for fucking absolutely everything that she does, pretty much until the end of time. Because she's too far behind education-wise to just pick it up. Like it'd take 10 years straight for her to fucking like catch up with everyone else. So yeah, it's difficult. I think some guys like that because they're just incredibly desperate. Like it's just anyone, just give me anyone that listens to me. I'll take the girl that doesn't really speak anything and she's like trapped in the house essentially because she can't speak English, she can't get out. I think that's pretty low value. You know, if you want like a fucking servant or a maid or something like that, it's not very expensive. Like you can just hire one. But some guys, I think as long as they get a wet pee-pee, like that's their biggest thing. They don't think about anyone else or anything else other than that. They don't think of the concept of having kids with someone like that. And then their kids are going to be fucked up, like going to be disadvantaged. But I think of fucking everything. You know, I think very long term. And I think I'm a realist. You know, I don't think I'm not like a fantasist. I'm not someone who, I think of all the outcomes and like all the upside and the downside. And that's why I am who I am. That's why I'm fucking as successful as I am, multi-millionaire. You know, I just got a new fucking Squad Dweller. Now, new Rolex. With the Sundust dial, rose gold. The one that I'd wanted it for like probably 10 months. And then I got it. I'm waiting to get probably a Daytona next. I have a guy here, Shahab, that gets watches. It's fucking great. I sent him the watch. I sent him the money probably 2 weeks before I come in. Because I know that he's legit. You know, he's not one of those fucking guys that would just run away with your money. He's a Jules friend and he's very credible, you know. It's when you have people that have integrity, you know, you can send the money up front and things like that because they have a reputation to lose. You know, he's always done the right thing, he always would. But he has a reputation to lose. He's not just some fucking like guy, you know, that's flown in off the fucking like rolled in off some boat somewhere and just gonna shit go everyone and then run out of here. He's built a reputation over many years as a trustworthy person. You know, it's the way that it goes. That's the difference between someone who's thinking long term and someone who's just thinking about like what they can get tomorrow. Is there any way of dealing with a new girl who bosses me around besides replacing? Alright, that's a good question. Again, it's boundaries. The hardest thing with guys is to enforce boundaries. See, they can sometimes do it in the beginning. That's why a lot of guys are fuckboys. Like, if you were realistic about it, you knew as many of these red pill fucking absolute nerds that I know, I've seen in person, I've met. If you knew them, you would understand that none of them have frame. Not frame that I have, not frame that the guys have that I hang around with. And as such, they don't have the women that we have. You know, the girl that I'm seeing now is, I've said it before, stunning. She's 104 pounds, something from Ukraine. She's 24. She's beautiful and she's very sweet. She's very smart. She's very pleasant to be around. You know, I enjoy her company. She adds value. You know, she listens to me, but she also, like, we get home, like I said, and I ask her questions. I ask for her important stuff because she's intelligent. But then these red pill nerds will run around and say a bunch of crap and none of them have anything. None of them have anything that you would ever want. Besides the money, Some of them have money because they're essentially like milking their subscribers, selling them a dream. But beyond that, they just don't really have any receipts with women. It's the biggest tell. They don't really have anything that you would want. They don't have anything that you would want to emulate. Relationships, like life, a lot of them don't really have any frame. Frame is just boundaries. See, the frame is what you set around you. It's your bubble. Like you're in your bubble, that's a framework. Imagine it's like a pen, and that's the frame. That's the frame of who you are, and that's the frame of how you determine how people are going to treat you. And that doesn't mean that if someone you've got this frame set in your head and you tell people, your boundaries and things like that. If someone pushes you, you can tell them. It doesn't mean that you're automatically going to be fucking throwing fists. It doesn't mean that you're in a fist fight immediately. It's sometimes you will have to fight. I'm not going to say that fist fights don't happen, especially when you're younger. The greatest thing about boundaries and the thing that's the best part of like installing them is sometimes you might have to fight, but you probably only ever have to fight like once or twice if you're like a normal person, because people will know that you have a limit. People will know that you will throw punches if you have to. You're not one of those people that's just going to be like whipped and treated like garbage again and again. That people can't just disrespect you again and again. So once people realize like, oh, this guy can fight or he will fight, he like at least trains boxing or does something, they're going to be a lot less likely to fuck with you. They're going to be a lot less likely to push your boundaries because they're going to be like, this guy, like he will do something if he has to. With prison, the guys who got the hardest times and eventually got like, bad shit that happened to them that I saw, it never started out just extreme. It never really started out like a guy just walks in the unit, unless he had massive issues outside of the unit or maybe they had bad blood or something like that. On the first day, the guy doesn't just get like bashed to a pulp or like stabbed or like fucking raped or something like that. That doesn't just happen immediately. It starts out small. It starts out with like, disrespectful comments, might take the guy's food. They might like, push the guy or like, press him or scare him or something like that, shake him up. And then it just gets worse over time. Then the next day it might be more extreme. Someone might hit him or someone might slap him or like spit on him or something like that. And then he just still takes it. And then it gets worse and worse and worse again until the worst outcome happens. But that didn't just happen in one day. It happened of like an increment where it was like, it's like backing a person into a corner and then they never really retaliated or they didn't stand up for themselves. So it just consistently got worse. And the longer the person lets that shit go, the harder it is to stand up for yourself because now it's more serious. It's when someone just says a comment or something like that you don't like, it's easy to do it then. But it's harder to do it when like it's going to be certainly a physical fight. If someone slaps you or pushes you or touches you or like, stands over you or disrespects you in front of girls or, says things that are completely inappropriate. Like maybe they make comments on your sister or your family or your kids or something like that. It completely crosses the line. Now it's like, now you have to fight. If someone touches you, it's a fight now. Like that's the game. I know a lot of you watching a lot of crap that says, oh, don't fight, just run away or do all this garbage. And that's a good piece of advice in some fucking areas and some circumstances and things like that. Guys will watch something and when Jocko or someone who's fucking like a decorated fighter and war vet says run away, like walk away, that's like shit that they should do. They neglect the fact that he only is who he is because he didn't walk away. So that's the funny thing with nerds. Like they only hear the fucking crap that they want to hear. They want to hear like the weakest response, like, oh, I'll just run away. They don't understand that he is who he is because he didn't run away. And when he tells you to run away, like who the fuck is going to start on someone like that? It's either going to be someone who's fucking crazy, armed, or can fight really hard themselves, or just doing it for clout. Like everyone knows that he's a great fighter and a veteran. So he is a war fighter. It's completely different than someone who just punches shit every now and then. But that doesn't mean that you, who is some fucking like pretty much nerd, should act exactly the same as he has. Like he only got to be the guy that he is by not walking away. Sometimes you just have to throw him. Sometimes some people push you that hard and things like that and things just get heated and you just have to let loose. very American and sort of like, yeah, some of these shitholes like UK and things like that, that the concept of every fight needs to be armed. You know, that's dumb. You know, that's just like guys watching too many rap videos and just being general pussies. The concept of like one-on-one and things like that's forgotten. But again, that's just a small part of the people. You know, I've been stabbed, bottled, had guns pulled on me. I've had a gun pulled fucking inches from my face. I've had a gun put in my face. Guy's trying to kill me. I've been bottled, fucking stabbed, fucking split my head from here to here. I've had all this shit. And to the concept that everyone's just running around with blades and shit like that, if they're just normal people, that's pretty low probability. You know, I know some nerds will be like, just run away, man. That's what men do. They just run and run their whole life. And like, yeah, you don't need to put any boundaries in place. Like, just run, man. Call the police. That shit's gay. Like, I saw some fucking dork on Instagram put up a GoFundMe because their kid, or not, maybe not their kid, but some kid who they were related to, was like abused by some dude, like abused physically by someone that wasn't even her dad. Someone beat up some like 13-year-old or something. This was in Australia. And they put up a GoFundMe like pleading for support. And some of you guys think that that's perfectly normal. Like that people can just assault you. The concept that someone can just assault your kids or like, you know, assault people that you love and things like that. And you just think that you would just call the police. Like, you know, that's just completely fucking wild to me. Like, you have to be able to enforce shit yourself. Like, if you're a man walking around the park or something, and if someone just walked up and smacked your kid or something and you can't do jack shit about it, like, you need to take a very long fucking hard look in the mirror and be like, I'm a pussy and I need to fucking like harden up. You know, it's a lot of the guys think now like something happens and they just call the police. The police are only going to arrive after, you know, the crime has already been committed. Does it really matter if the guy goes to jail if you bash the fuck out of your kid? Wouldn't you rather that he didn't and he just sat with you for like fucking 10 minutes? I would rather, if someone assaulted my kid or someone assaulted someone that I cared about, I would rather just have 5 minutes with the guy than if the guy does 50 years in jail. Like, what's the jail mean? Like, for some people, it's not even a punishment. They don't really give a fuck. Some people are so fucking like disturbed and switched off and junkies and shit like that sitting in jail doesn't really worry them. They don't really give a fuck. You know, an eye for an eye is a real thing. And then some nerd reframes it as an eye for an eye leaves the world blind. But some things, like, you have to react. You have to be a guy who can retaliate. You know, I had a guy once went to my mum's house, I've talked about it before, and threatened her because he was looking for me. And I wasn't there. I was fucking like 1,000 kilometers away or something. And then me and my friend got in the car. We drove like, I don't know, 10 hours or something. We're speeding like fucking crazy. Drove fucking skipped states. I was on fucking BAP just to get to the guy's house. We got there at like 5 a.m. or some shit, or 6 a.m. People everywhere, like walking around the street. We climbed up onto his balcony. It was 2 floors. Broke into his balcony, walked in his door. There was probably like, I don't know, 6 or 8 people there. And we just beat the fuck out of the guy in front of his whole team, like his whole crew. Smashed the guy, and it was at a trap house, and he ended up having to go to hospital. Like, had to get taken out in an ambulance. Just fucking crushed the guy. I remember having the guy on the ground, like on his knees, just pretty much begging for his life. Just like growling, like groaning because he'd been beaten that bad. Like, some shit you just can't let go. You know, I know the concept of that for some of you would just be like, you don't have that sort of like, you don't have the stones. Like, people can just fuck with you and fuck with you and fuck with you and there's just no consequences to it. You would sit there and call the police and try to like snitch on them. See, a lot of the shit now too, the snitch culture that's pushed, like, you know, 6ix9ine, all this other crap. You don't understand that's a psyop. You know, they're pushing shit like pretty much communism concepts, like through China, where everyone just snitches on everyone. And that's considered cool. Like, you know, it's funny. And that just gives the government more power. People, they want citizens ratting on each other. You know, like in China, I was in Singapore, the snitching, there's signs up that people should just snitch on each other for fucking everything. You know, if people play like a card game and there's any sort of gambling, like there was a sign up that says that you should just call the police and dob on them. Take a photo, and they've got like dobbing lines where they can take a photo, write a text, send it, and snitch on people, and they get in trouble. then the citizens displace each other. It's really bad for morale. But people like you, like a lot of the shit, you don't understand why they do it. It's the concept of like calling the police if someone assaults your family, or calling the police if someone comes after someone you love. That's gay. Like, it's just so fucking crazy to me. Like, if you're not a guy that can protect your family, like you won't even do jack shit. Like, you stand for fucking nothing. Like, people can just fuck with you endlessly and fuck with the people that you love. You're not a man to me. Like, you're a mouse, and you shouldn't be treated like a man. It doesn't mean that going around fighting people. It doesn't mean starting trouble. It's much the opposite. Boundaries and frame. The stronger your boundaries are, the less likely that you are to be fucked with. It's because it's a clear thing that you carry around. Like, I'll put up with this. You can joke around, but I won't put up with that. Me and my friends behind closed doors joke around and say shit too, say things like that. We wouldn't do it in public around people. You can still be fun, but everyone has to know that there's a line. They can't disrespect you. And your girl, she has to understand that there's a line, that she can't disrespect you. It sounds like it's already gone too far. So you have to make a stand on one specific topic. You have to say to her one day, you get home, she says a fucking smart ass remark, and you have to be like, I don't fucking like that. Like, I don't like how you talk to me. And then she'll be like, oh, try the reframe, where she tries to be like, oh, you can't take a joke. What's your problem? You're not like this, You must have had a bad day, or try to blame some shit on you, trying to gaslight you. And you have to stick to your guns. The hardest thing with frame is it gets tested and you have to stick to it. Now the frame has been set, like, you won't be treated like this, and now she's going to test it again and again. And sometimes the hardest thing is, if people saw you as a dork with no frame, it's going to take them a very fucking long time for them to see you as the guy who now has boundaries. And in some ways, it's a lot easier to just get a new girl, because she may never see you as a guy who has boundaries. Like, she may always see you as the guy that you were. She may, like, if were a dog with a circle of friends, and now you become cool, or like learn boundaries and go in the gym and things like that and build your foundation, and then you go hang out with those friends again, they're going to try and revert you back to that dog. Like, they're going to treat you exactly how they used to treat you. It doesn't matter if you're fucking like built like Hercules now and come back and you're a fucking kickboxer or something. They're still going to remember you as that fucking dog, and they're going to treat you like that. And it's going to take time for you to build that back in. It's going to take time. To a degree, it's probably worth just getting rid of them and starting over. I used to play professional Counter-Strike. I used to live in Gippsland, Victoria. I grew up in a town of 200 people, traveling south. I used to go to LAN parties there. I used to be a professional player. I was 260 pounds at 19. If I went back to those guys now that I used to play Counter-Strike with and sat down and talked to them, they'd probably still be like, this guy is, I don't know who this is in front of me, but I only remember this dork that used to play Counter-Strike. And I was a dork. It's a massive dork. I didn't fucking know anything. But it took a lot of progress to get to here. But I know that they only know me as that. So that's the game. And the same as if I go and hang around with criminal friends, like guys that I've known in prison. If I go to fucking hang out with people in prison, if I go to hang out with people that are still in that life, they only know me as that. So it's easy for me to get in trouble again, because with them, they only know me as a guy that was in trouble. So it goes both ways. And it's easy to get stuck into that, pushed back into being that person. It's in a lot of ways probably easy to get rid of the girl. But like I said, you have to make a stand on one specific issue. You have to stick to your guns. And you have to fucking be willing to essentially die, the relationship to die on that fucking thing, You have to, it could be something trivial. I've said it before. Maybe she watches the show you don't like. Maybe she has comments that you don't like. Maybe she says something that was disrespectful and you just make a stand on it. Maybe you want your house clean and she doesn't fucking do it. There's a lot of things that I expect when I'm in the house. But you have to make it clear from the start. A lot of the frame with people is set in the first fucking interaction. That's why they say it's very difficult to overdo a bad impression, like a bad first impression. I think that it takes many times over meeting the person again, if you have a terrible first impression with them, before they think that you're not that person that you were in the beginning. You know, it's the first 15 seconds or 30 seconds, they think that that's just how they are. The database of you gets built, and that's their reference point. So bad first impressions are an issue, and not having boundaries or any sort of frame is an issue. Frame's the biggest thing. Frame's why a lot of guys, yeah, like I've said, are fuckboys. A lot of guys want these transient sex sessions. A lot of guys can't get girls that fucking like do what they say. Can't get girls to listen to them. Can't get girls to take them very serious. Get girls that do a lot of this crap like cheating and all this other shit. And that's because a frame and boundaries just sort of, it makes the person confident of who you are. You know, they know where the rules are. They know where the lines are. And that's a foundation to build out a relationship. It's a foundation to build out a lot of friendships, relationships, business deals. You know, I'll take this, but I won't take that. Boundaries are the biggest thing. I think that I'll make a video on its own on boundaries, because it's a fucking massive thing. You know, I have a lot of experience in that. I was a nerd in school, went to 8 schools. Went to 8 schools and I went to one school twice. So I transferred schools 9 times. And I fucking didn't really have any boundaries. I used to get picked on. I used to have bad psoriasis from here to here. So I had a lot of fucking issues. I had no friends, 9 schools, always a new guy. Couldn't really have any boundaries because I was fat. I was out of shape, played Counter-Strike all the time. And yeah, that's life, you know. So I know everything about boundaries. I know everything about redeveloping yourself. I know everything about going from being a dog to a fucking multi-millionaire, strong person, with amazing relationships with women. I know everything. I know everything that is a person who started from where I started. You know, I have a lot of pride in myself. I don't know anyone that started where I started that is where I am. You know, I don't know anyone who started from literally the fucking absolute beyond bottom. You know, I had a dad that was sick. I lived in a town of 200 people. We moved fucking 9 times. I didn't have fucking like any advantages. I didn't have really fucking anything. You know, I had a lot of fucking got picked on all the time. I was invisible in school, didn't fuck a girl till I was like 20 or 21. I fucked a girl, 20 or 21. I've had fucking massive amounts of shit happen to me in my life. I've been to prison. I've sat in an army hospital 14 months straight. I've had fucking sold dope for years. Had a gun in my face. Been on both sides of a gun many times. Had a friend murdered. Been around lots of death. Had a girl overdose in my lap. Died. I've known a lot of shit that would fucking destroy people. Like, I've been through shit that people will fucking never come back from. I guarantee you there's no one on YouTube that's come back from the shit that I've come back from. I didn't come back, but I come back a multi-millionaire. You know, it's all self-made. My parents aren't from money. I've never been around money till I was already well into adulthood. I've had a fucking coke habit. I've been a gambling addict. I've had fucking pill addictions. I've tried to kill myself fucking over 10 years ago. I've come from places that people will never come back from. That's why I'll be on YouTube and people will say shit about me or say things like that. No one could live the life I've lived. No one could live the life I've lived, and no one could come back as a success. You know, so when people say, oh, who are you to give advice? I've been everywhere. You know, I've been in the highest highs, and I've been in the fucking lows that are so low that it's just like there's this zero light. Like, you're in lows where there's just all you can see is a fucking abyss. So when people say, you know, who are you to give advice? I'm me. I'm the guy who's known the highest, like I said, the highs and the lows. The highest. I've gone from a guy who could never even get a girl to a guy who gets unlimited girls. And not girls like these PUA dorks that have no receipts. You know, I'm talking about absolute glamours. I have girls that listen to me. I've got a great network of guy friends, all the way to, I would think, some of the tippy top of men. You know, I would say I have respect of great men. And I respect a lot of guys. You know, I'm a respect giver and I'm a respect taker as well. You know, I'm very much a person that I believe men should only get what they deserve out of life. I don't think you should ever put someone in a bad deal. I think you should only ever you're only entitled to what you deserve, like what you've worked for. And I think that I'm entitled to a lot because I've fucking been, like I said, I've been in the abyss. You know, guys want to talk about depression and things like that, and that's all I've known. I knew all that shit for years. You know, I've been in the fucking absolute darkness for a long time. So now I live in the light, and I've been in both. So when guys talk to me and guys know that they can talk to me about anything and nothing will shock me, nothing will surprise me. That's, I think, is one of my talents. I can talk to guys who are millionaires and everything's going great. And I can talk to a guy whose fucking dad or something like that just killed themselves an hour before. Or a guy who's fucking broken down because his girl left him and he himself wants to jump off the balcony. I was in a veterans hospital for 14 months. That was my life. I've been around guys constantly who were fucking suicidal. I've lost track of the amount of friends or guys that I've known from that time that killed themselves. It's people say, oh, depression, it's a fucking nothing and it's just in your head and all that shit. That's bullshit. Depression for men is a massive thing. It's a real thing. That's why I try to get guys to build the foundation. That's why I try to get guys to not be fuckboys. That's why I try to get guys to think long term. Because they don't think that companionships are fucking important. That's fucking so dumb. Like this fuckboy short-term crap, that's okay in your 20s. Maybe it's okay in your 30s. But what are you going to do at 40? A lot of guys will turn around and be like, yeah, but women will be unhappier than me at 40. Maybe they're more unhappier than you, but you still won't be happy. Guys focus on the wrong shit. I know a lot of guys get online and tell you that you need to have be a millionaire. Like that's the only way to be happy is to just be rich. And that's part of happiness. You don't need to be rich. You need to have enough money to fucking look after a family, look after yourself. Maybe you take a holiday every year and you have fun and things like that. You can still do shit. Yes, you have to increase your income. That's a true thing. But not everyone needs to be rolling around in Lamborghinis, and that shouldn't be everything that you aspire to. That's just a part of success. That's the flash, but it's got to have the substance behind it. I am about you developing the substance, the shit that you can learn that you take for fucking ever. I want to teach you shit that when you have kids, you can teach your kids shit. So then they're fucking essentially breaks the cycle, because no one taught me shit when I was young. And now my kid knows all the shit. And I'll teach you, and then you pass your kids on. It breaks the cycle. It's breaks the cycle of not being educated and not being told the shit that matters. If you're just a guy that all you think that if you're just going to get a nice watch and fucking nice shit and nice clothes, that people are just going to want to hang out with you, and they're not. The only people who are going to want to hang out with you are people that only like money and they want to get shit out of you. They want you to buy them a watch and all this crap. And that's fucking dumb. You've got to build your own value, and I would say all your value is internal. The watch and all this I've said it before, the watch, the shirt, fucking the penthouse, I can lose all that tomorrow, and I'm still me. The shit that matters, I have dignity, I have self-respect, I've built my foundation, I'm fit, I look after my body, I respect myself, I respect other people, I'm a respectable person, I'm fucking not educated in school, but I'm educated in the street. I always have utility, I always have value. I'm a multi-millionaire. If I lost it tomorrow, I would become a multi-millionaire again. I can consult in crypto, I can consult financial markets, I can consult businesses. If I fucking got desperate, I could mentor men easily. That's what I'm trying to teach you. I'm not teaching you to flash garbage where you've got to fucking try and fuck a million girls and get a Lambo and all this crap, because that's not developing who you are inside. Those are just outcomes of being the guy. I'm trying to teach you to be the guy, and the guy that's worthy of your own respect and respect of other people. People aren't going to respect you just because you get a Lambo. A lot of guys think that's like I've said, that's to a degree little dick energy. I know a lot of women that I would hang around with would say that it is little dick energy. A guy has put a bunch of shit next to him to try and make up for a massive amount of the flaws that he has inside. I'm trying to teach you to be the guy that can get those things. I'll teach you about building your foundation. Like I said, the fitness, the boundaries, the fucking frame of who you are and what you'll tolerate and who you want to be and what you want out of life. And then I'll teach you how to make money. Make money, how to expand, how to get into something that scales, how to get into advance in your job. I've done the video I've done on power dynamics. I think everyone should watch it. It's about signaling that you want more responsibility and signaling that you want to be in a job that pays more. Because when you get the leadership traits, you can eventually start your own gig. You can hire people, you can have staff. most things that you're going to want to do, you'll need to be able to deal with people. You'll need to be able to deal with those power dynamics. You'll need to be someone who can have staff. You know, you're dealing with a lot of people then. It's not that easy. If you've never done it before, it can be difficult. All right. I went off on a thing there, but I see it on IG. What does it mean to you if someone flips off the camera for a photo? I used to do that shit when I was young. It's dumb. Like, it's obviously immature. I used to do a lot of that shit when I was young, but it's, to me, just that young fuck boy sort of dumb stuff, trying to signal that you're some sort of bad boy. But the funny thing with that sort of stuff, like being a bad boy or like being a badass or all that sort of stuff, it typecasts you to a specific woman. Like the girl that's going to want me, you know, it's probably a lot of times not the girl that's like long term. You know, it's, I have to work harder to get girls that are like good girls, because a lot of the girls that would like someone like me with my history and the shit that I know and the shit that I've done is a very specific type of girl. Like, she's going to be damaged. She's going to have daddy issues. She's going to have like fucking, I don't know, be into substances. She's going to be a party girl. She's going to be not fucking long term, like damaged. You know, this is not the guy that girls fucking dream about bringing home to their dad normally, unless they have a massive amount of daddy issues. You know, it's Eastern Euro girls, so it's a bit more forgiving because this is more normal. You know, it's a lot harder to make money in countries like that. Like, you know, it might be hard to make money in Ukraine or some of the other countries like Belarus or things like that. So they will sometimes have to move into that sort of dark sort of like business. There's not a lot of employment. There's not a lot of jobs for the men over there. So a lot of them are kind of like hustlers. They do what they do to make money. So I think the women are a bit more understanding of that. But in countries like Australia or America, things like that, this is not the dream guy of girls that, you know, would have some substance, or girls that you would want to actually be long term with and have a family with and things like that. It's only going to attract a certain type of girl, like cocktail waitresses, fucking trash bags, bottle girls, girls that like to get on the bag every fucking week, that sort of shit. Like, it's not long term. You know, it's not a good girl or a girl that you'd want to have kids with and raise your kids with. That's not to say that I don't have good girls. You know, I have the mother of my kid, like, she's in Australia still. I would say that she's a great girl. You know, she's got a lot of fucking morals and she's a great mum to my daughter. So I do have a lot of respect for her. I think that, yeah, she's got a lot of attributes that I'm happy that my daughter will one day emulate. I think it's a big thing that when you have kids with a woman, you would think that if you have a daughter, as long as she was exactly like her mother, that you would be happy, because that's generally how she's going to turn up. You know, it doesn't matter as much. I think sons turn out like their dads, if the dad's around, but the daughters often turn out like the mother. Like, you can be a strict hand, but if the mother's a fucking hood rat, it's going to be extremely difficult, because kids don't really emulate what they hear, they emulate what they see. So if their dad's a couch potato, sitting on the couch doing fuck all, and he's telling the kid, do this, do that, do this, they might listen in the short term, but they're eventually gonna be like their dad in the long term. It's not they're just gonna let themselves go. It's more what they see than what they hear. So in general, sticking your fingers up and doing all this crap in IG photos, it's very fuckboy. Like, it's very try hard. You know, the biggest gangsters that I know, that's the funniest thing about like crime in Australia. A lot of the guys that make the most noise and everyone that thinks guys are doing heaps of shit because they're like, you know, in certain groups and things like that, they're the ones doing fuck all. They're doing literally nothing, just making all the noise and getting arrested for a bunch of crap. The guys that I know that are doing the most, they don't look like nothing. You know, the guys that I know that are fucking like living in yachts in Europe and shit, that are doing most of the stuff in Australia, most of, like, you know, the importations and shit, they don't look like anything. They don't look like gangsters. They don't look like bad boys. They look like businessmen. They're not fucking covered head to toe in tattoos. That's all crap. The ones making the most noise, generally doing fuck all. So that's my sort of take on that. It's very try hard. But I used to do it when I was young and dumb. But it attracts a very specific woman and a very specific life, because no one's going to really take you serious. So it fucks up not only your thing with women, You get a lot of sex, like, sex from fucking hood rats, but nothing that you would want. And then employers and things like that and opportunities, they think, oh, I can't be tied to this person. My own history and past, because of shit that I've done, there'll always be consequences to that. If I was to go on certain podcasts and things like that, I know that there'll be people that jump on and they're like, oh, but this guy did this fucking shit in the past. This guy is fucking like, you Google it. I had a guy blow up my fucking SRB Speaks on Instagram. Oh, you did this to a chick and fucking like, and I'll fucking address it, actually. I don't give a fuck what this cocksucker said. This guy says, oh, this guy slapped and pissed on a chick. Like, how could he ever fucking have anything to say from now on? He needs to apologize. And like I said, when the shit happened, I had the shit happen, got arrested, charged, whatever, DD breach. And then when I went to court, pled guilty to it, whatever. The girl wasn't going to go to court, and she didn't put a victim impact statement in. It's pretty murky. So the charge itself wasn't really that strong. With no victim impact statement, it's not really that strong. It's like you've pled guilty, but the victim hasn't really said any of the damages. So it's all fucking speculative. So the court can give you quite a light sentence. But this guy's like, yeah, this guy slapped and pissed on a chick, whatever. You need to apologize. You got nothing to teach no one. And it's true. But the chick snitched on me. The chick went to the cops on me, got me charged with trafficking. What do you expect? This is like, if you're in the shit, if you're taking money, and I was helping her out financially. If you're taking money from crime and then you go to the police, like, you're now a member of that fucking, like, you can't go to the cops. You can't snitch on people. It's just the game. If an average Joe snitches on me, that's fine. I would expect that. I don't care. But if someone's taking money from me and then they turn around and snitch on me, I have to do something now. I have to do something, because it wasn't just me that she snitched on. She snitched on friends of mine as well, who didn't get charged, but if they had of, there would be consequences. A friend of mine had been murdered like months before that. It's not. The consequences can be very dire. I did what I did. That's the game. Like, I did what I did, but also I don't regret it. Like I said to the press, got out of court, pled guilty. They're like, oh, do you have anything to say to your girlfriend? You're going to apologize. I don't apologize. Like, I fucking did what I did. You fucking poked the fucking line. What do you expect? Like, you get bit. That's the game. I did the time for it. I did the sentence. I did the punishment. And that's life. I still don't regret it. Because at the end of the day, if I didn't do what I did, if I didn't do something, do you think that my friends wouldn't have? Do you think that my friends wouldn't have done something to her? Or to me? Probably to her first. And then possibly to me, but most likely just to her. But do you think that it would have been much worse than that? Like, yeah, this guy's going to be like, you bashed your girl and bashed her to a pulp. That's complete bullshit. I slapped her twice. Not hard. Not hard enough to leave like fucking marks. The pissing thing's extreme to a degree, yes, but it's about humiliation, because I was humiliated. So that's the game. It was. I had friends and shit like that come to me and be like, what the fuck's going on? It's my reputation on the line as well. The lesson is just don't snitch. If you're involved in crime and you're like, profiting off it, or you're taking or something like that, you're essentially in the shit. Just say nothing. If you don't want to be with a person, or you don't want to do shit or whatever, breakup's fine. But just don't go to the cops. Don't get people charged for trafficking. If it had been just me, I would have still been angry, but the fact that it was other people as well, there's consequences. So when someone jumps on and they're like, oh, apologize, like, you're not fit to give guys advice or any of this shit, you can suck my fucking nuts. I'm fit to give people advice because I've done everything, including the shit that wasn't right. So when someone comes to me and says, oh, I've done this or done that, or I'm having issues with DV or all this sort of crap, I've been there. I've been through it from the fucking start to the finish. Been to court probably 50 or 60 times in my life or more. All the way from magistrate to supreme to district. Been fucking everywhere. I've been to most of the jails in Queensland. I've done all of that shit. I only know the shit that's right to do because I've done all the shit that was wrong to do. I only know the quick way to fucking like be happy and successful and profitable and doing things because I've gone all the fucking routes to get to where I got to. So someone turns around, if you want to learn from someone who's fucking like, a marketer and they've done fucking nothing and they're just telling you a strategy because they've never really tried anything else, and that's their tactic to get money off you. So be it, but that's my life. That's what I'm on here talking about. And if you don't like it, suck my cock. Like, if you don't like it, you can essentially do something about it. You know, like, I respect force. I don't respect the guy jumping on talking a bunch of garbage. If it's a big enough deal, you do something about it. Should men get tattoos and why? I don't think men should get tattoos unless they really want to. Like, you know, you've got to understand that it puts you typecasts you to a specific person. You know, if you're a guy that gets neck tattoos or tattoos on your hands and things like that, people will assume that you're a gangster, you know, or some sort of tattoo artist or something. So if that's not really what you want to portray to the world, that's not really like a good idea for you. I don't think that it's a great idea to get tattoos then. I think that you got to understand, like, you know, I got tattoos when I was a young man. You know, I didn't really know who I wanted to be, and I was already pretty covered in tattoos by the time I even got to the army. But if I had have had my time and looked back and thought long term, maybe I wouldn't have got so many tattoos. I don't regret them, but in the direction that I ended up going in, it was made sense. But the guy that I am now is not the same guy that I was then. You know, it stands out. If you ever get into trouble, they're going to remember the tattoos. If you get in a club and you hit someone, they're going to remember their tattoos. Go to the police and say, oh, he had X on his hand, or this guy had a neck tat, or this. It's easy to identify. You know, I think that tattoos, it depends if it matters to you. If it depends if it's something that, you know, you're going to stick with forever. If you've got like your kid's name on you or your kid's portrait or something like that, that makes sense. But if you're just like, you know, getting pictures and things like that, you've got to understand that it's lifelong. If that's the guy that you are and the guy that you want to be, you don't want to be too corporate, because it can be an issue in the corporate world, unfortunately. You know, people, what they see, that's generally what they assume that you are. So I think that it just depends who you are and who you want to portray yourself with and where you're going in the world. I don't think that it's a personality. I see a lot of guys in Australia that just get tattooed up in fucking like 2 months, they're covered, and they think that it's now they've built some personality. But I don't think that's the case. It's just an accessory, kind of like a watch, things like that. It's not who you are, and it doesn't really change who you are, but it does change how you get treated. I enlisted in the US Army Should I become an officer, and how long should I stay? I think if you've got what it takes to be an officer, I think that that's a good thing. You'll learn leadership skills, you'll learn to get respect of men, you'll learn how to be around other men, you'll probably learn like more education going through that. I think that if you have the ability, I think that you should do it. I'm not saying how long you should stay in there. I don't really know. I'm not going to be an expert on the sort of US Army. Like I'm not. I was in the Australian Army. But I think that it's a good thing to be an officer if you have what it takes. I think that, why not? You know, it builds your story. A lot of the guys, like a lot of the time, your life is just building a story. You know, and then one day when you get older, you'll be like, I built these attributes and that along the way, and now I can move them into another thing that I've mastered. You know, I think if you're a young man and you want to join the US Army and you've got the opportunity to be an officer, I think why not take it? You get exposed to a lot of successful guys, like guys that will become something, especially in officer school, and they'll go on to do many things. If you use it to network and build your network, I think it'll be a great thing, great for discipline, great for leadership. You know, I think go for it. I don't think have a set time in your head for when you get there. I don't think treat it like, oh, I have to be out in 3 years or 4 years. Officer is something you can do pretty much for your whole life. You know, they do get paid quite well. A lot of benefits, they get a lot of respect. If your currency is respect, I think the military is a great thing. Not everyone's currency is the same. Not everyone wants to be rich as possible. Not everyone wants to fuck as many girls as possible. Some people just want to be respected, respectable, serve their country. And I think that's very admirable. I think if you're that guy, then why not? You know, it builds your story. Look at something you'll look at when you're 60, 70 and be like, fuck, you know, I was that guy. When you slow down, everyone slows down. Even now I'm starting to get to a point where I'm slowing down. And you look back and think like what I did when I had that fit body, what I did when I had all that fucking like energy in my 20s. I think it's great, mate. So do it. What's an automated no investment side hustle What's an automated no investment side hustle that's easy and trustless? Well, anything that was easy and trustless in a side hustle and automated, everyone else would be doing. I mean, someone in India could fucking set up a farm that's doing 1,000 of them at once. So I don't think any of those really exist. think the concept of passive income and all this crap, unless you're buying real estate or something, so there's a clear barrier of entry, I think that none of that stuff exists anymore. Because if the only barrier of entry is to have an internet connection, I mean, guys in India can do a job for $3 an hour. So if it's automated, like, it's not going to be profitable. They're going to do it at scale, and they've already mopped up all the value. Best advice to get over an ex, self-improvement wise, is to build your foundation. Fitness, boundaries, self-respect, earn your own, have dignity, develop high income skill, build that out. You know, those are the best things to get over an ex. Becoming the guy that you have it in you to be. You know, the best revenge is, I've gotten revenge before, like physically fucking gotten it. The best revenge is a life well lived. That's the revenge that hurts the most. It's like the slow knife. You know, it sticks in for a long time, and the person that looks at you 10 years from now and they're like, fuck, I really fucked it up with this guy and he's something special. That's what hurts the most. Because most people are fuck ups. Like that, or they have a bad experience and then they don't get better. They just dwell and live in the past. I've said it before. Life is to be lived forward, but you can only understand it looking backwards. So you need to get stronger, better in every regard. You need to build your foundation even stronger. And eventually you look back and you think, like, I don't even think about my ex. Like, I'm already league speed above that. I'm getting better girls than her. I've got all that shit. So you have to think like that. Eventually, when you look back, it won't matter anymore. Like, you become the guy. You develop all the other qualities and you look back and you're like, I can't believe I ever really fucking like dwelled on that too much. Instead of the guy who sits there and he's like doing everything to try and like prove that he's someone who he isn't. You know, guys will fucking like buy shit and that to try and impress an ex and crap instead of develop the foundation. And that's crap. You know, you don't want to try to dunk on her or all that crap and give her all your energy. You just want to spend your energy getting better and focusing on yourself. A lot of you need to focus on yourself much more than you do now. That's the biggest ROI. You know, not focusing on friends, exes, fucking lovers, all this crap. Until you're the man. When you're the man, everyone comes to you. You have the leverage now. The tennis ball's in your court. You have something to offer. You have value. So everyone comes to you and you dictate the terms. That's what you want. That takes time, that takes effort, that takes building the foundation. And that's what I preach. I preach long term. I don't preach this fucking short term crap. Buy a watch, oh, get a Lambo, and everyone's just gonna want to hang out with you. You're gonna be Mr. Cool. You're gonna be the same guy in a Lambo. People are only gonna want to hang out with you to sit in your Lambo. Like, that's dumb. You'd be exactly like guys like, oh, I want to buy a mansion, but you'll be exactly the same guy in the mansion. Like, nothing changes like you think. The only people that are going to be around you are only going to be around you to get money off you. They're going to see you as like a walking cash machine and just think how they can get shit out of you. And then guys get really bitter and jaded because all they have to offer is money. And then they turn around and be like, all I get are gold diggers, like all women are gold diggers. Because how can you be upset at that if all you have to offer is money? Like, how can you be upset if that's all people are seeing you? That's all your value is. So you can't be devastated at that. My value is well beyond money. Why live in Poland, not Dubai? It's a good question. Dubai I love, but it's very artificial. It's very much a money city. Like, a lot of people are focused on business, money, things like that. It's artificial. It's very seasonal. Like, a lot of people leave when it's summer because it's fucking extremely hot, the desert. You look at the desert for so long, but it starts to me to get a bit tired. I'm from Australia, so I'm used to a lot of beautiful scenery and country. Poland, it has that. You know, the weather is very dreary, so I wouldn't live in there year round. But I like the snow. I like seeing like the cultural people. I like the people that aren't completely obsessed with money. I like the idea that I don't walk around and see a bunch of like Rolls Royces, Bentleys, fucking guys who just have unlimited money. You know, it's loses its luster. You know, money to me is just a tool. Like, it's just a tool to generate fun and look after people and like have a good life and have nice things, yes. But those things, like, they aren't who you are. They don't control you. I know I have a nice watch and all this sort of stuff, but I'm still the same guy. You know, I'm still the same guy with the G-Shock. I'm still the same guy who had no watch. I'm still the same. I'm a broke boy. Like, I'm just a guy who had no money and then just become extremely rich. You know, I'm the guy from the trenches still. You know, if I eat and do things, I'm still not the guy with a lot of class. Like, I'll never change on who I am. You know, I sit down and eat with guys that have great manners and they're real classy and all this sort of stuff. And They want to social climb and do all this crap, and that's great for them. But that's just not who I am. Like, I'm always going to be the guy that I'm from. You know, my dad drives buses, my mum's not working, who hasn't worked for a long time. I was never like, I'm not from money. I'm not from any of that shit. So as such, I learned how to have fun without money. You know, I learned how to have fun with just basic stuff. My palate and things like my taste and that, I'm just used to eating cheap food. I'm fucking, like I said before, when I was a broke boy, I just used to eat cans of tuna and shit just straight. It's the fittest that I've ever been. I'm still that guy. You know, I went to prison, I've had no manners there, eating shit food. I'm still the same dude. Army hospital, 14 months, eating fucking like average food. I'm the same guy. You know, I'm not the guy that's going to change up or try to pretend to be someone that I'm not. Try to be congruent with who I am. So Dubai, it's a lot for me. You know, it's very different to anywhere that I've ever seen or grown up or things like that. I grew up in Trelvin South. I think it's one of the highest towns of unemployment in the fucking like whole west of Australia. Gippsland, Latrobe Valley. The unemployment there is fucking rampant. The drug use there is fucking wild. Some of the worst in the country. So I'm still that same guy. You know, I'm the same guy that's just a broke dude that got rich. You know, it's found a vehicle to get rich in. That's the game. You know, that's what I try to push to you guys. Developed everything else and then got rich. That's the game. All right, that's part one. I'll do part two later, but it's fucking 2:30. I'm gonna have some sleep.